on deck, indicating that the guns were not manned.
Clear lower deck. Clear lower deck. Clear lower deck. HMAS Huon, man ship. HMAS Huon, outwards, turn. By the center, rest. HMAS Huon, stand up, gate.
It is my great pleasure to welcome to the parade and introduce the Executive Officer of HMAS Huon, Lieutenant Aaron Goldsworthy, RAN, who will lead the parade as the Parade Commander. Lieutenant Goldsworthy joined the Royal Australian Navy in 2017 and completed initial employment training as a Maritime Warfare Officer in 2019. He subsequently posted to HMAS Arunta in 2020, which was most notably included by a regional presence deployment and Operation Argos. Lieutenant Goldsworthy completed Intermediate Navigation Warfare Officers course in 2022 before joining Huon as the Navigating Officer, and since March 2024 was required to assume responsibility as the Acting Executive Officer. Lieutenant Goldsworthy hails from Adelaide, is married to Emily, and together they have an 11-month-old son, Henry. The Parade Commander will give the order to march on the guard, which is made up of crew from HMAS Huon. The Decommissioning Guard is under the command of Lieutenant Huon Armstrong, RAN.
Activation! Now! March on the guard! Guard, into line, rise! Dead! Guard, by the right, yes! Activation! Stand at ease! Guard, stand at ease!
Piping the side originated in the days of sail when captains visiting one another at sea were hoisted on board in a net or a basket, particularly in rough weather, prevented the use of ladders. This established the custom of piping an officer alongside or over the gangway. The use of the boatswain's call in English ships can be traced back with certainty to the days of the Crusades in 1248 AD. The expression to pipe is the directive made by the sound of the boatswain's call and is then qualified with a spoken order. Some pipes, however, are orders themselves and do not require any verbal addition. The commanding officer of HMAS Huon, Lieutenant Commander Rodney Weeks, RAN, will be piped ashore for the very last time. Lieutenant Commander Weeks joined the Royal Australian Navy in 2006 and trained as a Maritime Warfare Officer, and then subsequently specialised in mine warfare and clearance diving in 2015. His sea postings have included postings to HMAS ships Anzac, Arunta, Lewin, Melville, Maitland, Broome, Diamantina, and more recently in command of HMAS Yarra and now Huon. He has deployed on Operation Catalyst, Resolute, and has conducted postings as the officer in charge of the Bridge Training Warfare Facility at HMAS Watson. In 2016, Lieutenant Commander Weeks was posted to the Tactical Assault Group East, better known as TAG East, focusing on domestic counter-terrorism and undertook operations as part of this posting. Lieutenant Commander Weeks is from Tasmania, and he has a strong connection to HMAS Huon as he is also from the Huon Valley. He loves the outdoors and is married to his wife Adriana. The parade commander, Lieutenant Goldsworthy, will then report to the commanding officer that the ship's company are formed and we are ready for the decommissioning.
Activation! Oh! Guard! Oh! Watch the side! Activation! Stand at ease! Guard, stand at ease!
When asked, the commanding officer of HMAS Huon, Lieutenant Commander Weeks, had a quote to say about Huon's service. HMAS Huon has served a uniquely critical role in Australia's maritime defence, enhancing security and contributing to humanitarian efforts. The crew have consistently demonstrated resilience, adaptability, and professionalism, and Huon's legacy reflects a deep-seated commitment to excellence in the service of our nation. We now await the arrival of our host and reviewing officer, Commander of the Australian Fleet, Rear Admiral Christopher Smith, AM, CSM, RAN. On arrival, Rear Admiral Smith will be met by the commanding officer of HMAS Huon. Rear Admiral Smith will receive a general salute from the Guard and musical titles entitled Iolanthe. In a moment, I will ask all of those who are able to please stand on the arrival of the reviewing officer and members in uniform to salute on the Guard Commander's orders to receive the Commander of the Australian Fleet.
Activation! Hold! Guard! Hold!
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able to, I now ask you to stand for the reception of the host and reviewing officer. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Rear Admiral Smith assumed control of the Australian fleet on the 16th of December 2022 after completing his position as Deputy Chief of Navy. He joined the Royal Australian Navy in 1989 and has completed seagoing appointments in HMAS ships Stalwart, Brunei, Parramatta, Perth, Ipswich, Geraldton, Canberra, Anzac, and has had command of HMAS ships Gladstone, Darwin, and Canberra. His shore appointments have included Staff Officer to Chief of the Defence Force, Deputy Director of Sailors Career Management, Director, Navy Warfare Professional Requirements, 2015 Force Structure Review, Commander Surface Floor Force, Director Littoral, and as mentioned, most recently as Deputy Chief of Navy. I now invite Rear Admiral Smith to the lectern to commence the order of service and provide his address.
HMAS Huon, stand at ease. Guard, stand at ease.
Mayor of North Sydney Council, Mayor Zoe Baker, Deputy Mayor of Huonville, Deputy Mayor Toby Thorpe, ship sponsor Mrs Betty Norris, a Huonville local who commissioned the ship back in 1999, Vice Admiral Russ Crane, AO, CSM, RAN, former Chief of Navy. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Camaragal Aboriginal people who we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to pay my respects to all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders gathered here today, and to particularly acknowledge those who have served the Australian Defence Force. I would also like to particularly acknowledge all those who have served as members of HMAS Huon Ships Company and their families who have supported them throughout their service. And just also highlight that today we have 16 ships, 1,163 sailors and officers at sea, as we do most weeks across both Australia and our region, and it's always worth acknowledging the continuous effort of our Navy as we go about our daily business. Today we farewell the first of the Huon-class Minehunter Coastal vessels, HMAS Huon. Built in Italy and fitted out in Newcastle, Huon was commissioned on the 15th of May 1999 here at Waterhen under the command of Commander Jeff Uren, RAN. Huon was at sea just 2 days after commissioning, conducting exercises off the New South Wales coast. She is the second Australian ship to bear the name and the first of 6 Huon-class Minehunter Coastal vessels commissioned into the RAN. Based on the Italian Gaeta-class Minehunter, with modifications to suit Australian conditions, the Huon class featured a unique hull design made of composite plastic that had no ribs, frames or stiffeners, avoiding local stress points that could separate under shock conditions. Huon paid her first visit to Port Huon on the southwest coast of Tasmania and participated in an adoption ceremony at nearby Huonville. The ship's company has exercised its right of freedom of entry to the town of Huonville 4 times since its adoption, most recently earlier this month on the 4th of May 2024. Throughout its years of service, Huon participated in several fleet and multi-service exercises, fleet and minor war vessel concentration periods and exercises. In July and August of 2023, Huon supported recovery operations following the tragic MRH-90 Taipan helicopter crash that claimed the lives of 4 Australian Defence Force members during Talisman Sabre. Huon also participated in several multinational exercises overseas. Huon's Northeast Asian deployment in 2018, in company with sister ship Gascoigne, represented the most northern deployment of any Australian mine warfare vessel. In February 2004, Huon deployed to the Solomon Islands in support of Operation Anode, the Australian Defence Force's contribution to the Australian-led regional assistance mission to the Solomon Islands, supporting the Solomon Islands government in restoring law and order during a period of civil unrest. Engagement between the ship's company and locals during village visits had the most significant impact, however, as schools and communities interacted with their naval visitors, particularly through sporting competitions. And I'm reliably informed that a number of soccer games were held, the first against an under-13s local school, where the result was 4-1 loss for Huon. And the locals also proved too skillful at the slightly more senior levels when they took on a high school team and were again beaten 7-0. I assume that was a great act of diplomacy, otherwise a great level of resilience to keep backing up. While conducting exercises in Jervis Bay on the 1st of February 2005, Huon was struck by lightning. And while the ship lost power temporarily, there were no injuries and only minor damage. After a few days alongside at Creswell to conduct repairs, she was operational again on the morning of the 5th of February. Huon was temporarily deactivated in March of 2006 as part of force structure changes announced in the 2003 Defence Capability Review. The deactivation proved very brief, however, as the ship was recalled to service just 2 months later in order to bolster the Navy's presence in northern waters. In January 2011, Huon's ship's company was recalled from Christmas leave to contribute to Operation Queensland Flood Assist, which became the Defence Force's largest domestic humanitarian relief effort since Cyclone Tracy. Huon arrived in Moreton Bay on the evening of the 17th of January. She was the first RAN fleet unit to arrive in the region for the recovery and reconstruction phase of the operation. In 2016 and 19, Huon supported Operational Render Safe, the ADF operation, to safely dispose of remnant Second World War era explosives in the South Pacific. In addition to her nominal warfare role, Huon has also conducted occasional hydrographic operations in Australian waters, including the Great Barrier Reef and around Rottnest Island, Port Phillip Bay and Moreton Bay. Huon was awarded the Duke of Gloucester Cup in 2013 as the RAN unit displaying the highest level of overall efficiency of a fleet unit in that year, the only ship of its class to have done so. Today we reflect and commend HMAS Huon for all she has achieved in her 25 years service. To the ship's company, past and present, thank you for your service. A ship is nothing without its crew. Huon would not have been able to achieve anything without your professionalism and dedication. And to the families who sacrifice time away from loved ones, thank you for your strength and support. We can't do what we do at sea without the support of our loved ones at home. HMAS Huon and all who served in her, bravo Zulu. You have lived up to your ship's motto, stand fast. Your duty today is almost complete.
Thank you, sir, for your address. I now invite the Commanding Officer of HMAS Huon to the lectern, Lieutenant Commander Rodney Weeks, RAN.
His Majesty's Australian ship Huon, the second of its name, the first of its class. When I was a kid growing up in the Huon Valley, the thought of one day being in command of a ship named after the river that I swam in was beyond comprehension. The enigmatic feeling is amplified today as I give this address on her final day. I stand here today with mixed emotions. sadness, nostalgia, and most importantly, gratitude. These emotions are not mine, but ours. The men and women with feet on deck as I speak, and the hundreds of men and women who have served in Huon during her 25 years of service life. For us, Huon is more than a vessel. She is a symbol of unity and resilience. She has witnessed the transformation of strangers into a tight-knit crew, bound by trust, time and time again. Together, we have faced the unknown, embraced challenges, and forged unbreakable bonds. For us, Huon has been a sanctuary for developing human potential, where the sum of human unification has been far greater than the sum of its parts. This was evidenced through the awarding of the Gloucester Cup as described by the Fleet Commander. Our motto, "Stand fast," means dutifully firm and unwavering. I could not think of a more appropriate motto for our beloved ship. For a quarter of a century, Huon has endured relentless seas, lonely sunsets, and sacrifices in the service of our great nation. Her commitment and steadfast dependability have been a cornerstone in the security of Australia's maritime domain. As a commanding officer, the weight of command is heavy, but it is light as a feather in comparison to the intrinsic reward. A lot of people here will attest to that statement, and I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of former commanding officers of HMAS Huon. Captain Jeff Uren, John Griffith, Dougal Cleland, Doug Griffiths, Andrew Stevens. Commander Paul Kerber, Chris Cockrell, Rob Short. Lieutenant Commander Kel Dillon, Barry Jones, Beau Mulroney, and Troy Baird. Thank you for sharing the weight, and thank you for sharing the reward. And while we are here to celebrate the service life and decommissioning of Huon, it is also crucial to acknowledge the current crew, a group of friends who will abruptly be dispersed onto new horizons. I say to you, although Huon will no longer sail the seas, its legacy will live on forever in your hearts and in your stories. The memories you created and the friendships you formed are the true treasures. As we bid farewell, let us be grateful for the experiences, for the challenges, and for the growth it has gifted us. Thank you to the crew, past and present, for your unwavering dedication and commitment. Thank you to the families and friends ashore whose support and sacrifice in ways untold ease the burden of our absence. And lastly, to Huon, thank you for being our faithful companion and guardian on the vast expanse of ocean. We bid you farewell. What has been stand fast is now rest easy in the annals of maritime history.
Thank you to the Commanding Officer of HMAS Huon for his address. The ceremony today will be conducted in 3 distinct and traditional elements. Firstly, we will conduct prayers and thanksgiving for the ship and all that have served in her, followed by an abridged sunset ceremony to mark the end of Huon's service. Lastly, we will decommission the ship, and her decommissioning crew will depart the ship for the very last time. During prayer, I ask that all uniform members please follow the parade commander's orders for the removal of headdress.
HMAS Huon, hold! Guard, hold! HMAS Huon, off! Caps! HMAS Huon, stand at Ace! Guards, stand at! Ace!
I now have the pleasure of introducing Maritime Spiritual Wellbeing Officer Trent Bowen, RAN, to conduct the introduction to prayer.
HMAS Huon was commissioned as a ship of the Royal Australian Navy at HMAS Waterhen here on Camaragal Land, Waverton, on the 15th of May 1999. This part of the ceremony now includes reflection and prayer in a number of traditions, asking for protection, for some through the lens of religion, and for others through what we hold most sacred and are most connected. Where elements do not accord with your worldview, I ask that you take the time for silent reflection on what this ship has achieved and the many lives and stories that have brought this ship to life. After 25 years of efficient service in the cause of peace, and after a succession of ships companies have preserved the high standards with which the life of HMAS Huon began, on this, her last day, we give thanks for her sterling service.
I would now like to introduce Able Seaman Combat Systems Operator Mine Warfare Jamie Snays to read the reflection of gratitude. Able Seaman Snays joined HMAS Huon on the 18th of August 2021.
Those of us who have served in HMAS Huon know that she is more than just a ship. For us, she has been our haven and our home, a place of work and a platform for adventure. The base from which we have sailed far over the horizon and close to home to bring safety and security, to restore dignity and hope. This ship has held us in our shared humanity, frustrating and delighting us with her personalities and her quirks. She has been our partner in our successes and our struggles, witness to the worst and the best of who we have been. We acknowledge with gratitude and grief the end of her service to the Royal Australian Navy and to the people of this nation.
Thank you, AB Snays. I'll now ask Maritime Spiritual Wellbeing Officer Bowen to lead us in the prayer for the Navy. Immediately following this prayer, we will be led by Petty Officer Musician Tracy Kennedy and the Royal Australian Navy Band in the singing of the Naval Hymn. Prior to the commencement of the Naval Hymn, I ask that all those that are able please stand.
Eternal God, Creator of the heavens and ruler of the raging seas, take under your powerful protection and bless all ships of the Royal Australian Navy. Preserve us from the dangers of the sea and strengthen us so that we may faithfully serve our Sovereign King Charles and the people of the Commonwealth of Australia. With the help of others who love freedom, may we be able to ensure security for all those who lawfully travel the seven seas, and by our effort, maintain for all people the possibility of serving you in peace and justice all through their lives. Amen.
Eternal Father, strong to save, bosom doth bind the restless wave, who beats the mighty ocean deep, its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. O Trinity of love and power, brethren, shield in dangers from rock and tempest, far and far. protect them wheresoe'er they go. Thus evermore shall rise to thee glad hymns of praise from land and sea.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The church pennant will now be lowered from HMAS Huon's mast, formally completing the final prayer service for Huon. As we ready the parade for the next elements, and on the parade commander's orders, I ask that all uniform members replace and adjust headdress as necessary.
HMAS Huon, ho! Guard, ho! HMAS Huon, on caps! HMAS Huon, stand at ease! HMAS Huon, stand easy! HMAS Huon, ho!
This now concludes the first element of the decommissioning ceremony. The next two sections are considered the decommissioning ceremony proper, and in combination are unique to decommissioning a commissioned ship. To commence this process, I call upon Commander of the Australian Fleet Rear Admiral Chris Smith to present the Commanding Officer of HMAS Huon the orders to decommission the ship. The formal orders provided to the Commanding Officer is the direction to decommission the ship and for the process of decommissioning to commence.
HMAS Huon Decommissioning Order. The Chief of Navy, Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, Officer of the Order of Australia, Royal Australian Navy, has directed that His Majesty's Australian ship Huon be decommissioned at His Majesty's Australian ship Waterhen, New South Wales, on the 30th day of May 2024. Consequently, you are to proceed to decommission the ship from service in the Royal Australian Navy, in accordance with the provision of orders and instruction issued by higher authority, given under my hand this day, 30th of May 2024.
HMAS Huon, stand at ease! Guard, stand at ease!
Now that the CO has received the orders, he will return to HMAS Huon and be piped on board as the commanding officer for the very last time. The custom of piping the side dates back to the age of sail, where ships' captains were called upon to report to their senior officer's flagship to receive or discuss orders. When the sea was too rough to permit gangway, the visiting captain would enter and leave by his boat by means of a boatswain's car, rigged on a yardarm whip. Over time, this practice has evolved, and the use of the pipe became a form of salute practiced throughout many of the world's navies today.
HMAS Huon, ho! Guard, ho! Pipe the side!
As the beginning of the end for this ship, it is important to note her outstanding achievements. In her 25 years of service, HMAS Huon has steamed an impressive 299,817 nautical miles, during of which 37,130 hours have been spent underway. While not an accurate account of her service, That averages to almost 12,000 nautical miles per year of service, almost 1.5 trips to the moon, or 13.8 times around the Earth. To formally close this impressive effort of the ship, and as we now approach the decommissioning itself, the harmonised version bugle call of sunset will be sounded as the Australian White Ensign and Australian national flag are slowly lowered on board HMAS Huon for the last time. Sunset will be followed by Song of Australia as the Australian White Ensign is ceremonially folded. This will be followed by the playing of the national anthem, Advance Australia Fair. Rooted in the tradition and ceremony conducted at the closing of each day at sunset, this abridged ceremony will now be used to close the chapter of this ship's story and prepare her to rest. I will shortly ask you all to stand. All members in uniform are required to salute on the Guard Commander's orders during the playing of the sunset and the national anthem.
HMAS Huon, right turn. Guard into line, right turn. Very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to stand.
HMAS Huon, left turn. Guard into line, left turn. Guard general salute, present arms.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for all. Our home is girt by sea, a land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let at every stage, advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Guard! Oh!
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Now that the Australian White Ensign has been struck from the mast for the last time, it will be presented to the commanding officer by the Ensign Party. This now marks the formal decommissioning of HMAS Huon, and her crew will depart the ship for the last time to take up their respective next postings. On the command of the commanding officer through his executive officer, the crew will march off the ship for the final time to the official march of the Royal Australian Navy, entitled Royal Australian Navy. The commanding officer will be the last person and last serving member to depart the ship in line with hundreds of years of tradition.
March up, ship company! Aye, sir! Jets company! Inwards, turn! Jets company! Quiet!
As the commanding officer comes off the ship, he will present the commander of the Australian fleet, the Australian White Ensign, for his safekeeping until the next ship, Huon, with the Huon name, is commissioned into the RAN fleet. During this element, the commanding officer will make a request for 1 minute's silence to remember all of those who have served in Huon and are no longer with us. This is conducted after the bugle call, after the bugle player has played the last post, and will conclude with the reveille. Everyone who is able to stand is asked to stand on the Guard Commander's command for general salute, and uniform members are asked to provide the appropriate marks of respect. The duty bugler for today is able seaman musician Philip Eadie.
Sir, Huon's job is done. I commend you, her White Ensign, for your safekeeping.
behalf of the Royal Australian Navy, I will hold this Australian wine in safekeeping until the next ship is commissioned and Huon.
Sir, request 1 minute silence on all the men and women that have served in blue.
Make them safe.
Aye, sir.
Guard, general salute, present! Arms! Guard! Up!
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. To finish today's ceremony, the crew of Huon will now conduct a march past. The salute today will be taken by Commander of the Australian Fleet, Rear Admiral Smith. The music used for the march, Waltz and Matilda, is familiar to us all and forms a musical salute for the Prime Minister of Australia and is performed regularly as for march pasts for Australian naval ceremonies, acknowledging our service to the people of Australia and to our commitment to protecting Australia and its national interests. The ship's company will now be prepared to march past by order of the Commanding Officer. On completion of the march past, the Commanding Officer, Executive Officer, ship's company and ceremonial guard will proceed off the parade ground, signifying the conclusion of the formal part of today's ceremony.
Sir, request permission to march past the ship's company and carry on.
March past the ship's company.
Aye, sir.
March past the ship's company! Aye, sir! Guard, into line, left, 10. Guard, by the centre, quick!
This now concludes and completes the decommissioning of HMAS Huon. On behalf of Chief of Navy Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, I thank you for your attendance today and for those watching on the live stream, and hope that you have enjoyed today's ceremony. Prior to the departure of Fleet Commander, I ask that we thank the Royal Australian Navy Band under the direction of Lieutenant Commander Andrew Stokes, and of course all the ship's crew of Huon for their perfect execution of today's ceremony. I now ask that you all be standing for the departure from the parade of the Commander of the Australian Fleet. Please be seated. Now that Rear Admiral Smith has departed, I invite guests to depart the parade ground and welcome you for refreshments here at HMAS Waterhen, where the cutting of the decommissioning cake will take place. If you have any questions on how to get to the function, please direct them to any uniformed staff around the area. Once again, on behalf of the Royal Australian Navy, thank you for your attendance today and good afternoon.